Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, brought to you by Climate FieldView. My name is Alex Bernard, Associate Editor for Top Crop Manager. I'm joined today by Daniel deMoissac, Climate FieldView Business Manager. During today's session, Daniel will discuss putting farm data to work for you after harvest, touching on such topics as ways to bring data into Climate FieldView, how to successfully record data in Climate FieldView during harvest, and what can be done before to prepare, and understanding what your harvest data is telling you. Thanks to Climate FieldView for sponsoring our session today as part of Top Crop Manager's 2021 Harvest Hub. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to all attendees and registrants within 7 days of our live broadcast. This session is scheduled to run for approximately 45 minutes. Daniel will speak for about 30 minutes and, following his presentation, we'll open the floor for questions. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please type them into the Q&A tab found at the bottom of the Zoom webinar panel on your computer screen. And without further ado, I'll let Daniel take it away.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks for having me, guys. And I appreciate you're one of the rare few who can actually pronounce my name, deMoissac. So thanks for that. That's awesome. All right. So Climate FieldView, we're going to talk about your data, your harvest. Basically, what is digital ag? How is this important to you? And so on and so forth. So let's go through this fun little presentation. So who am I? I'm today's expert, Dan deMoissac, from the Climate Business Manager for Eastern Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. Yes, I do know what the prairies are. I'm actually originally from Southern Manitoba. I'm actually just south of Winnipeg there, where I was born and raised. I got a BCom, University of Manitoba. And I spent 18 years in the grain marketing industry. So I know how to trade grain, corn, soybeans, specifically here in Eastern Canada for Richardson's, Bunge, Greenfield Ethanol, and a few local elevators. So I know my way around the grain bins, that's for sure. In the past 4 years, I got on with Climate FieldView and as the local business manager here for Eastern Ontario, again, for Quebec, Maritimes, and this fun part of the province. So let's move forward. Now, why are we here today? So I'm going to walk through a quick agenda here, kind of show you what FieldView is, where does it fit? There's a lot of different digital programs out there, and it's quite confusing, right? I'm not sure exactly what you guys do. What can you do for me specifically? One of the analogies I really love, we talked about with Alex earlier, is there's a lot of tools out there, and how do we fit there? I think FieldView is more like the toolbox, right? You need a lot of different things to get done. You need it all in one spot. FieldView is kind of like the toolbox for that. So I'm going to use that analogy from going forward. So thanks, Alex, for that. It was pretty cool. I'm going to talk to different ways about how data can help during harvest. So how to bring that data into FieldView. We'll look at the Fieldvue Drive, the data inbox, and an API, essentially kind of a digital link. We're also going to look at how to be successful when recording that FieldView data during harvest and how that can be done. So, how to update the iPad, the apps, compatibility. What exactly is compatibility? How to do some test runs, fixing your information, what you do get in there. And then, of course, how to understand that. Like once you do have that data in there, what do you do? We want to look at yield, look at moisture, look at speed. How does that affect my current production and what's going forward? We're going to look at some FieldView tools like the field region report and yield analysis. We'll look at trial comparisons. We'll look at decisions and how they paid off and which ones didn't, right? Sometimes you try something in the field and maybe it's just not worth it. I'm not going to repeat that next year. Those are just as important as what did work. And we're going to look at our seed input decisions for next year using these digital tools. All right, so moving forward, we bring digital tools to the farm. So the Climate Corporation is the owner, of course, of Climate FieldView. And our belief is to basically the next breakthrough in agriculture will be utilizing data and analytics to optimize decision making, right? So we already know we have to look at different hybrids, we look at soil types, we look at all kinds of fun stuff. We need to get that into a digital format to really optimize our decision making. Now, our mission is to help all the world's farmers sustainably increase productivity with our digital tools. All right. So the Climate Corporation, we have a mix of scientists, academic backgrounds, digital companies, soil genetics, agronomists, and farmers. So we're not just kind of like that pie in the sky, big data type company. We really are the mom and pop shops. We are the farmers. We do actually have farms. There's about 10% of our current staff who are actively working on farms, who still use FieldView on the farms and are working at the actual operation. We bring a huge mix of people to this and we kind of are able to solve those problems. So we're part of the community as well. So Climate FieldView, we have 3 platform values, our pillar values, if you want. we want to get all your data in one place. Like I was talking earlier, these little tools, well, you need a toolbox, right? You can't have a screwdriver in the back of the truck and have your hammer at the back of the barn. It's not going to work. You need to have it in one spot. Same with your data, your planting, your seeding, your application, soil work, soil types, yield data. You want that in one spot. And where FieldView really comes in is we're colorblind. We're, basically we can use any kind of varieties, any kind of data out there can really come into this platform and really help you make those decisions. But then you got to make use of that data. So we want to help you visualize and analyze the crop performance to optimize your inputs, right? And once you do that, we want to use data-driven and seed fertility subfield insights. So it's great to know what happens at the farm. It's even better to know what happens within that field to optimize those decisions. All right, so to get to that point, we need to get your data into the platform. And when I mean your data, I really mean your data. You own your own data. So basically this starts with you and stops with you. You can decide to share this information or keep it all to yourself. You decide, you're the boss. So let's get that data into the platform. There's 3 different ways, actually 4, and I'll talk about that 4th as well, because we're looking at connected cabs. So if you're driving, a machine with a GPS and a monitor, you can just go ahead and plug in their FieldVue Drive. This little device that plugs into the CAN bus, or the CAN plug, and grabs that data from the drive into an iPad automatically. So that's a really great way. I'll talk more about it in a second here. You can also upload your data. So if you already have machines where you have data in the monitors, you grab that USB key, you plug it in and upload it. Again, we'll go into more details, but that's another way of getting your data in. And API partners is basically a digital bridge to other platforms. The one I haven't mentioned, and I think will be useful to a lot of farmers in Canada, will be the manual layers. So some of you are thinking, you know what, this is great, this is fun, but I just don't have GPS. I'm not there yet. I don't want to invest in that. Maybe I don't have the acres. Maybe I do. I'm just not at that level. You can enter all this stuff manually. So you can do manual planting maps, manual seeding maps, manual soil maps, a bunch of different things, even manual harvest maps. So if you know the number of bushels or tons or kilograms or pounds per field, we can put that in there and match them up with our satellite imagery and actually have variable yield maps based on your own data. So yeah, absolutely. You go back with your weigh scale tickets, you put in that manually. This is for you. So you don't have to think, hey, I don't have the greatest machine out there. It doesn't matter. This is for you. And even to the point where you can just draw your field boundaries, get your field health imagery. This is something for you. So let's go into some of those details. Maybe you do have that equipment. You spend a lot of time in the machine. You spend maybe 12, 13, 14 hours a day, planting, seeding, spraying, combining. You just don't feel like grabbing that USB key at the end of the day. Easy as pie. You just grab this FieldVue Drive. So you see this little puck here. It's about half the size of your fist roughly. Plugs into the machine and communicates with an iPad. Yes, it's only iPad for now. So once you do have that iPad connected, it's a Bluetooth connection. You do not need data or internet in the cab. Right? It's independent. As long as it's Bluetooth connection, just like you have a phone or a speaker on your iPad, same deal. Here we're just reading the information. We're not sending information back into your machine, just reading what's going on and putting that into the iPad. So it's automated data collection. The FieldVue Drive plugs into your existing monitoring systems to provide hands-free data collection for your iPad. And then the cloud sync. So the cloud sync is basically any hotspot location or live stream of your data on the go. You never lose your data. If you want to do it in the field, great. That's awesome. If you don't, fine. Go to the local Tim Hortons, go to the McDonald's, go to your neighbor's shop. As long as they're sharing their Wi-Fi, go ahead and upload your data. You're not going to lose it. And this is the fun part. Again, it's almost hands-free. You walk out of the combine, you walk out of your planter at night, you're just tired. You walk back home, grab your cup of coffee, and your data is there for you. Another cool part is if you're sharing this information with your agronomist or so your family member, maybe your mom or your dad or whoever, they have instant access to this information as soon as the cloud synced. So really fun stuff, really great way to get your information set up very, very quickly. Again, maybe you're not at that level yet, or you want to bring historical data. Here's a time to grab your USB key or that flash drive or any kind of recording device. You can import your historical data. Your no drive, no problem. Download your operational files to a portable memory device directly from your machine and upload to FieldView account. Again, just bring in all your historical data. Imagine walking into your field and you know exactly what you've done 3, 4, 5 years ago, where you've planted, what you've planted, what hybrid, what variety, and even what population, what speed. This is great information for your agronomists out there. How get historical information from that field. Another way is get your field boundaries in with this USB key. So if you have a relatively small farm, a couple of easy fields to draw, you can just draw in your own field boundaries by, with your mouse and clicker and just get it in pretty quickly. But if you have a relatively large operation or a lot of complicated fields, it's a real pain in the where to get that information or to get those boundaries in there. Uploading from a USB key is beautiful. You just plug that sucker in there, download your boundaries, and yeah, you'll probably have to go in there and do some corrections, make sure you're not cutting through roads or through creeks and this and that. But generally speaking, this is a wonderful way to get your field boundaries into the platform. And API partners, which are called digital bridges, essentially. So it makes it easy for you. We are currently using other partner software platforms. You can link your data via an API, so an application programming interface. Again, a digital bridge. Great example is, My John Deere or Class Telematics. In fact, now we even have Farm Tracks or Farm TRX, where you have your data already set up with these guys. That's fine. We can set up a digital bridge where you finish combining, you finish seeding, you finish planting, whatever with your machine. That data comes automatically back into the FieldView platform to make it another layer. So great example is, let's say you have a seeder with, say John Deere. You bring that information straight in. Then you might have a custom applicator with, I don't know, a New Holland machine, or you name it. And that information comes again straight into the platform. And then the combine, of course, you all have, beautiful Lexions all over the place, right? So you bring that information in, then we start comparing layers. What did you plant? What level did you plant? Where did you plant it? How fast were you driving? And start comparing it to harvest. So that's the idea of bringing all these tools into that one location. And that's where the importance comes in. So again, makes it really easy to bring that information in. So now, how do we set up for success? I've told you how to bring this information to the platform, but now what, right? How do we get prepared? How do we start using this information? One thing you're going to want to do is download our apps. So for FieldView, there's 3 ways of really using it. It's through the website. So www.climatefieldview.ca. Think of it as your kind of management part of the software, right? You want to go in and create new boundaries. You want to correct data. You want to do, work with your data there. Or there's the other 2 apps. We got the FieldView app, or also called the full app, which is the black and orange one here. That'll work on Android devices as well as iOS devices, whether it's phones or tablets. Call this kind of a scouting app. This is the one where you're going to want to give to your agronomist or have for your maybe your family or somebody you're sharing the farm with. This is the scouting app. You're going to be in the field with this app. You're going to be putting pins and information through this app. Whereas the last one, the cab app, this is something that's on your iPad that'll go in pair with the Drive. Now, speaking of the Drive, here's where we connected. So again, when we talk about checking for compatibility, if you're a new Climate FieldView user or an existing user, you'll want to capture the data for the first time, basically, or you have a brand new combine. We have to look at the compatibility. We have a compatibility checker, but essentially what it comes down to is, where does this information come through? Is there a GPS signal where we can capture from? Is there a monitor where we get information? Sometimes we're lucky, we could plug that drive in straight to the CAN bus or the port there straight in the machine and read that information. Most other times, depending on the setup you have, I've seen something as complicated as, I have, say, a John Deere monitor for the planter, but also a Precision Planting 2020 for the airbags, but also, I'll call it a case, for example, or a Trimble, whatever you want, for auto guidance. So there's a mix and match of equipment. We have to understand, where is that signal coming from? The great part is FieldView have specialists. You call into our support line, say, hey, listen, this is my setup. Can you help me out? Or can you send somebody to the farm? We have people physically drive over and look at the equipment and plug things in for you, make sure things work. And this is all free service. This is simple, easy to use. So I don't want to get to the weeds onto this, but just know that it could be as simple as plug and play to your CAN bus, or depending on the type of systems you do have in there, we'll need some wires, go buy some different equipment just to get in there. But overall, relatively easy process when you have the right experts in the right places. Now, also, it's best if we can ensure that if the data is clean going into harvest, basically the data has to be clean, garbage in, going in, garbage out. Sorry, it's a hard way to say it, but garbage in, garbage out. We want to make sure we have good, crisp, clean data going in to make sure we have the best possible information coming out. So that being said, maybe we got into the field and forgot to change the hybrid, or forgot to change the population, or did something that wasn't quite right. that can still be fixed later on. So if we go to the website, climatefieldview.ca, there's a fix-it tool where we can change the crop type. We can change the hybrid or variety names. We can edit all this information. Maybe we had multiple fields that were combined in one big field. So for example, let's say I had field A and B were all stuck together in my combine. I can come back here and separate that information through the Climate app and have separate fields A and separate fields B so that I know exactly what my yield is and what my data is for each of these separate fields. So again, that's climatefieldview.ca. It's also good to double check if we have all our application data logged into the FieldView account, especially if we've done trials of the season, right? So sometimes we're just not thinking, we're out in the field, putting all this information in there, and we look back, oh, I forgot to turn my monitor on. Oh, I forgot to do this, I forgot to do that, and you just don't quite have it. So having these layers logged will help us draw conclusions following harvest on the product's performance, either against other products or against untreated checks. So if you notice that there's missing data, we can always go back and input that data. Like I was telling you earlier, we can do this manually if possible. There's other ways. If you have your USB key, we can go and fetch that and bring that data in. And there's a couple little cool things. It's what we call is the Map Anything Kit. That's probably another webinar in itself, but essentially we have a GPS unit. We could plug into any power system, any 12-volt power system, and kind of create these layers in the field with a four-wheel drive, you know, a four-wheeler, or even I do my lawn more for fun. We can create these layers. As long as the plants aren't too high, we can go back in and actually recreate some of these layers if need be. So it's not always lost. The cool thing too is if we don't have these layers, there's still ways to get this information out. We could drop a pin. We physically go in the field, we see our GPS location, drop a pin. This is where I started my trial. This is where I ended my trial. And when we come back in with the combine, we can go back in and actually find those passes and assign to them. So this pass number 1 happens to be a trial. Pass number 2 happens to be a check strip. Pass number 3 happens to be a competitor, and so on and so forth. That information can still be retrieved at a later date. So it's very, very flexible. Even if you forget and don't have that information, we can always go back in and get that data out for you. One thing that does happen is checking the Bluetooth connection, just like in your phone, just like, you know, a Bluetooth speaker on your phone or iPad. They do sometimes get disconnected. Of course, we have fixes for that. We do the best we can, but it's something you want to check. So to connect this drive to the iPad, simply just plug in your drive. You'll see the blue light turns on saying, okay, I'm looking for that connection. You go into your iPad settings and make sure that the Bluetooth settings are on, and it will pair just like any speaker or phone, whatever you want. It'll just pair up. The trick is, one thing I really want you to be aware of is that you also have to pair it in the CAB app. This is one step that's missed quite a bit, and this is one of the reasons I put this in the presentation. When you do go to the CAB app, you'll go into settings and devices. It'll say tap to connect. Because oftentimes I'm hearing, oh, Dan, you know, my drive is paired with my iPad, but I don't see my combine. I don't see what's going on in the field. Go to settings, devices, tap to connect, and voila, you've got your connection. So just something worth mentioning to avoid some kind of, you know, heartburn in the field. All right, now let's move on to another step, putting your data to work. This is a super important part. This is why we're doing it, right? Why bother collecting our data when we don't get anything out of it? So this is ROI, return on investment for your time and work. All right. Oh, I click on the right button here. So again, correct information. We got to start with a post-harvest calibration to ensure accuracy. So following the harvest is when the real fun begins. You can actually start analyzing the yield data and hopefully learning some things from the trials and application data we have collected from the growing season. However, before we dive too far in the analysis portion, we once again have to check for and verify the data if it's accurate as can be. So we're looking at post-harvest calibrations. Basically, we just go back into the harvest maps, click into the summaries, and here we can actually adjust the original weight, the total weight, the moisture, and so on and so forth. The really cool part, I know it's pretty small to see on these slides, but it actually keeps the original weight recorded. So for example, in this one here, my original acres, for example, is 142.2 acres harvested. Let's say I know it's 142.5 or whatever you want. You'll click 145 and enter it. But you'll notice just at the top of this is original 142.2. So you know if somebody's actually gone in and corrected or messed with your data. But again, this could be a good thing too, right? If your scale tickets are slightly different, maybe your combine wasn't quite calibrated properly, you've really taken a good care of weighing every single load that comes out of that field, and you need to make those adjustments. This is where you can do it, and essentially it'll correct it for the entire field. The other great part about this, especially in Western Canada, where we have multiple combines in the same field, right? Maybe that combine wasn't calibrated as a second one. Maybe there was a slight off, or one wasn't calibrated at all. You can always go back and recalibrate, or basically readjust the weights and the volumes and the moistures for the field itself, so that you have accurate information for your end reports. That's where it becomes critical. So now we want to view different layers. What do you do with this information? So you're going to notice here in these slides, we're side by side. You actually do a split screen on some of these applications. So maybe I want to compare my yield maps to, I don't know, soil types. Maybe I want to compare it to varieties. Maybe I want to compare it to speed or elevation, and so on and so forth. There's anything you can bring to this platform, you can start comparing and really diving into it. And the great part is not, again, just by field. As I said earlier, we want to do it by region. If you notice on the bottom right-hand slide here, or on the bottom right-hand picture, there's kind of a square within a square. So essentially what I did here is you grab a field health region, so a region report, and you could do it freehand. So with your finger in the field or on your iPad or on the computer, whatever you want, you just draw a certain square or region or polygon, any shape you want, and get information from that location. So let's take a look at this one here. We have basically a square within a square. And in that area where I've drawn by hand, I have 75.2 acres in that particular location at 22.6 moisture. And if you look at the very, very bottom of that slide, it's hard to tell, but I've got 107.8 acres. So I know I have just the heart of that information. Maybe I kind of, exclude the headlands. And I know that I got 177 bushels per acre there versus what the average was. I don't actually see it. I think I see it 110.9 acres harvested. No, sorry, that's not right there. But anyway, you can really dive into specific. The great part is, why do you have all your information into one location? It's for these reports. So if you notice, it says by hybrid. So on the left-hand side of that report, we're bringing in our planting or seeding data. So hybrid A, B, C, D, that comes from our planter. We know where we've planted it and how much we've planted of it. And then on the right-hand side, that brings information from the combine. So it brings all this information into one particular location. So I know that my hybrid A performed at 183 bushels per acre versus the average of 177. So you know what? That hybrid A is actually doing quite well for me. Whereas hybrid D, for example, I'm at 162. I know that it's not performing very well in this particular field. Again, this is just comparing varieties. We can look at other, maybe you look at moisture, maybe you look at soil types, maybe you look at elevation, but this information is here for you to look at. And that's the great part. Some of you, this digital information is great. It's portable. You can have it anywhere you want. You might be at the insurance adjusters. You might be at your bank, and you can pull this information out. Or you might want to print reports. I know a lot of my customers prefer those paper reports, especially on the Quebec side. You have to print these reports for the government for pesticides and herbicide use, and then that's just fine and dandy. It's simple. You just go ahead and save it as a format. So that center picture there, at center photograph, we have different hybrids, different practices. We have the field, we have different layers in there that we can actually print out and keep for our records. So this is a lot of fun to keep that information handy. The other one, this is actually a picture of the full app. So the FieldView app. When you're looking at the analysis, so yield analysis, how many times has your seed dealer come to the farm, kind of at the end of harvest or in the middle of harvest and say, hey, listen, we've got to book your seed for next year. And, if we book it early, we can get you a discount. And you're like, hey, I'm not even done harvesting yet. I can't tell you this information, right? I don't know where I am. Right away, we've got the seed guide. If this information is correct, right? As long as you take in a lot of precautions to make sure your information is accurate and correct in FieldView, within the click of a button, you could see your yield by field and by hybrid and get all this information instantly. So when you do have to make those tough decisions, it's not necessarily a gut decision anymore, right? We all have our favorite hybrids. Well, I know I'm going to stick with X, Y, Z because, I've done it for several years, performed really well. But for those other fields, I don't know. I have a feeling this one's going pretty good. I got to get that harvested next week, but I think it's going to go quite well. Well, now we know, we have this information. It's like being in the buddy seat. We know exactly what's going on. And when I say about the buddy seat, I'm talking about your agronomist, right? So you can share this information. Again, if you want to share one or several fields or some information with your seed dealer, your agronomist, whoever you want, they can have instant access and help you make those decisions, right? They can really dig in and decide this works for you. I know for the rest of this location doesn't work very well, but this particular field, this particular hybrid works very, very well in this situation. Let's give that a shot. So again, it's grabbing your information, your operation, your farm, and making better decisions for you going forward. This is the whole idea, making things a lot more simple, taking some of the anxiety out of that for you, right? And then again, a few more examples of, kind of reports we're getting out of this. So we have these region reports. Again, we could really, really delve in. This is a really fun one. If we go into the CAB app, we can even have reports by pass. Really get into a lot of details. Here's a great report, actually kind of a story. I have one of my customers out in the Maritimes, and last year they noticed that one particular hybrid of corn was drying down faster than the other particular hybrid. And similar to that center picture where we have side-by-side hybrids with different passes. Here we happen to have a kind of a yellow or an orange and a blue pass. That farmer decided, hey, listen, there's this one hybrid I want to combine now. It's down, it's dry enough. It's time to get in the field. Where can I find these hybrids in my fields? So again, very simple. Just show the analysis. Here's your hybrid, and here where are the fields where those hybrids belong. And on top of that, let's get even more granular. Within these fields, all your orange strips happen to be that particular hybrid. So line your combine up with those orange strips, and you're only going to combine the hybrid that you're looking for. So again, really granular information, and it suits particular applications. Even if you look at kind of like the far right, we can almost see the pivot in the field. If I want to see reports, how does my corn, soybeans, wheat, canola, flax, whatever you want, or even my potatoes, actually, it's really going for potatoes. How does my crop perform under a pivot versus outside the pivot region? Again, you just draw a circle, draw a polygon, and get that information for specific areas within your field. I know that maybe 10 years ago, we ripped out a fence line in a certain field. And is it worth, planting a high population there? Or should I just start, weeding down my population, fertilizer, and spend that money elsewhere? This is where these reports will shine. You'll get to really zoom in. A couple of examples I love to show is that, exactly this is where this will not replace the agronomist. This will not replace boots on the ground. This is still a platform where you're going to have to walk those fields, but you're going to have more tools at your disposal. You're going to have, pinpoint accuracy with GPS data and dig in. So if I see those red zones, again, just to kind of delineate, the red zones, if you look on the right-hand map, are the lower biomass, the lower, producing areas or lower biomass in the field, whereas the dark green ones are the higher biomass. But again, we don't know, are those weeds? Are those really good quality crops? Again, let's take the agronomist, let's go in those fields, let's take the inspection and decide, what do we do? And it's all about making the best decision for next year, right? Maybe next year, I'm going to look at variable rate. Maybe next year, I'll plant less heavy in the red zones and a little heavier in the green zones. I'll maybe put more fertilizer in the green zones and less in the red zones. Maybe I'll spend more or less or the same on those inputs, but I'm going to maximize my yield potential year after year with these decisions. We always have those salespeople who want to sell that magic dust. This magic dust is certainly going to work in your field. It's been proven in this area. Let's give it a shot. All right. Let's put your money where your mouth is and let's try it out. So we try that in the field, make sure we delineate exactly where it is in FieldView. Again, great information in is great information out. So let's find out what it is. When the combine goes in the field, and you know what? I forgot the weigh wagon at the farm, or the weigh wagon can't come in. That's fine. My combine is calibrated. That information is instant. It is on FieldView. It is safe forever, and I will make the best decisions with me and my agronomists. So that is it for my presentations, and that's a half hour, almost on the mark. So are there any questions?
It's almost like it's not your first rodeo timing it like that. So yes, thank you, Daniel, for that presentation. That was great. If anyone does have questions, please feel free to put them in the question and answer panel or in the chat box if you can't find the question and answer panel. But for now, I'll ask one of my own.
Perfect.
So How technically savvy does someone have to be to, one, use the platform, and two, get the most out of it?
This is designed for, how do I say it in a nice way? For an older American farmer, right? So when this FieldView platform came out, we had in mind, the 55 to 65-year-old American farmer with a smartphone. It's evolved from there, but essentially it's a very simple platform to use. And again, there's a lot of different tools, or a lot of different ways to use it. So for example, let's say I'm a super novice. Like maybe I got my very first smartphone last week and I just want to try to get this into it. The easiest thing you can do is get onto the website, climatefieldview.ca. You'll just draw the boundaries. So you literally just click, draw a boundary, you find your field, you put a few dots around that field, put the names in, hit save. That's it. That's all I'm doing, right? Simple as that. From that, within 24 hours, I'm already going to receive our satellite imagery, right? So there'll be biomass images for the last 3 to 4 years for all your fields. And you could just look at those maps. So again, all I did is put a few dots and I could see my biomass images. That's huge. I could see where are the hot spots in my field, where are the low spots in my field. Is there something that's reoccurring every year? For the last 3 or 4 years, I see this red zone in my field. What's going on? Maybe I'll scout that one spot more often. So you can go from very, very novice to somebody who, again, with not a lot of effort, if I have the app on my phone, I can literally walk in the field, see where I am and drop a pin. But it is about education, right? It's about learning. It's about baby steps. It's learning how to use the platform. Whoever got their smartphones, right? You got a smartphone. You were maybe not able to use it to its fullest capacity on day one, but as you use it, use it on every day, you become a professional. And same thing with FieldView. Day one, it's like, well, this is a nice map, but so what? Day two, it's like, well, let me walk that field. Oh, wait a minute. I see my blue spot. I can follow myself around. That's cool. Day three, you do the same thing, but hey, that red zone, I'm seeing some insects here. There's insect pressure. Maybe I'll drop a pin and you just build onto that. Essentially, this platform, the ratings overall, the statistics we've seen is that it's one of the easiest platforms to use in digital ag. So that being said, it's not simple, but it's easy to use and you got to learn how to use it, just like any other machine, any other platform. Again, I say machine, right? You jump in a tractor, can you drive it? Well, sure, if you've had the experience, but now those high-tech digital tractors, day one, you're not going to be an expert. Day 10, day 15, yeah, you can start really getting into there pretty good. Same thing with FieldView. And on top of that, let's just say that there's a lot of help out there, right? So if you go to YouTube, just go to YouTube, type in Climate FieldView or FieldView Canada. There's a ton of videos. How do I do this? How do I do that? Twitter, Facebook, the 1-800 line. We have bilingual people. For my Quebec audience, you can call into that 1-800 number in St. Louis, Missouri, and there's some French people who will answer the phone and get you that service. So we try to emulate kind of like the Amazon helpline. We try to be the best in business for that service. Give them a shout and they will be more than happy to help you out. Even if you think, oh, this is a really stupid question, I'm not sure I'm going to ask it. We've heard it all. We've literally heard it all, and we enjoy this. That's why we're here. That's why my job exists. I'm happy to be here because you guys are asking all those questions. So one step at a time, and let's have some fun.
Yes, a question asked is always better than not, like wishing and not knowing.
Yeah.
Now, is this something? It seems like it's a platform that suits continuous input throughout the season, or as much input as you want to do. Is it something that you can kind of put your data in at the beginning of the season and still get something out of it? Or is that something that it does, continuous input does benefit it?
Continuous input is definitely better. The more and the better, the merrier, right? If you're putting, again, garbage in, garbage out, if you're putting a ton of data and it's not good, you're not getting ahead of it. But you're absolutely right. You cannot put data in unless the work is actually done. So for example, if I want to do a manual seeding map, I can't do it for 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road. It has to be, okay, the work is done. Now I can put this information in, because oftentimes you're thinking, oh, I plan on putting this hybrid in that field, and this is what I'm going to do. And when it comes down to it, it's like, oh man, days are cold, it's raining, or I don't have access to enough hybrid. Maybe half the field I'll do with this hybrid, and I got to go borrow some bags from the neighbor and just to fill in the blank spots. That happens a lot, and that's fine. So as you're going through the process, that's when you put the information in. And you don't evaluate your information when you're planting. Like when you're planting, you're seeding, you got to work. You're in that field. There's one job that's the most critical, and if something doesn't work, who cares? Just get your seeds in the ground. And then when it slows down, that's when you can either put your information back in or find, look at the information that's already in there and evaluate what's the next step. You can look at weather, for example, when's the right time for fungicide? That's huge. We actually have a program going on right now. It's a binary rate fungicide. We look at maybe instead of spraying 75% of your good acres, instead of spraying 75% of your acres, let's spray 75% of your good acres. So in a field, you'll have a binary rate on and off, and just spray the good stuff in that field, make the right decision. So continuous, data is absolutely critical.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I imagine both the platform and the continuous data input means that things like field and strip trials, it makes it easy to see what you're getting out, what's happening in the field.
Yeah, and again, it's all about you, your farm, your data, and make better decisions next year, right? So if you're the type of producer who likes to do trials in the field, wonderful, but you need the information from those trials. I don't know how many times I've been out there and the producer's like, you know what, I just have to get this harvested. I don't care where I put it in. It's going to rain. It's going to snow. It's going to whatever. I need to get this in the truck and just get out of here and forget to take the weigh scale or forget to take the data. Or I don't remember exactly where I sprayed. That's lost data. That's lost effort. Now, if we can just do this automatically and not even think about it, just get in the cab and do the job like you normally would, but now you have something captured. Guess what? Next year, I may or may not spray that particular product, or I may or may not seed at this particular level. I have a great, maybe not something I should be saying, but I know I have one of my customers, they did a fungicide trial last year versus a check strip. And in that particular field, in that particular hybrid, the particular timing, that did not pay off. Therefore, now they have a data point. Next year, 3 years, 4 years from now, if they say, hey, I've got the same hybrid in the same field and the same weather conditions, I'm not going to waste my money on this particular fungicide unless technology's evolved. But now I got a data point that I know this is not going to pay for me. And same thing, flip the coin, and where I have this other product, they did, it was a herbicide. They did, again, a competitor. They did one check strip and then the regular herbicide. And right away, it was proven that, hey, this really, really does work much better than XYZ. This is something we have to try again because it does have payback. So it's all about using your data to make better decisions for you at your own place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know one major concern a lot of farmers I've spoken to have about ag data software and tech is compatibility between software platforms. And it seems like that's not so much of an issue with Climate FieldView. Is that accurate to say?
100%. We love partners. We absolutely love working with partners. We know we can't do it all, right? We're not going to be the operations specialist like equipment dealers will be. We're not going to be, specialists like drone imagery, for example. We can't do it as well as other major companies who do it very, very well. So let's work with them instead of working against them. That's kind of the way we see our models. Like let's be open, let's be transparent. Again, it's about you guys using what you need for the farm. So if you need certain drone imagery, if you need, different colors of equipment on the farm, that's fine. You guys can work with that. We are very, very flexible in working with a lot of different colors, a lot of different brands. And, we work with, again, all the different hybrids. Even if you have a hybrid that's experimental or we don't necessarily have it on the platform, you can add it in there yourself. I can say, hey, I have carrots, or I have maple. I've got a maple tree lot in my backyard, 1.5 acres of maples. I say, hey, let's just try it out for fun. I was able to actually put in maple trees at a population. So it's super flexible. You can put anything you want, even if we don't have that particular hybrid or variety that you normally use from that one interesting company, that's fine. You guys can still go ahead and use it and type it in manually. Super, super flexible. And that's what you need. Basically, farm work is teamwork, right? You can't do it by yourself. We have the same principle.
Fantastic. And this is the interviewer in me. Off the top of your head, is there a story of a farmer who used the platform and just was completely surprised by what they found, and what kind of data was it that they got out of it?
Oh, yeah. Actually, this is one of the simplest ways to use a platform, and it's so convenient. So I have this one producer. He's Mr. Green, let's say. Mr. Green only uses green equipment on the farm. That's all they ever use. And that's fine. They're doing a great, fantastic job. Now, Mr. Green's about to go out and harvest his soybeans. And his wife is actually the one who said, hey, I want to try FieldView on the farm. I know my husband doesn't want to try any other technology. But for me and my girls, so she's actually got 3 girls who are going to run the farm in the future. And she goes, for me and my girls, it's very important that we use technology and digital ag across this farm. And we choose, we want to use FieldView. So she was using FieldView, and Mr. Green was about to go combining. And at one point, there was a big soybean field, and relatively large field, and he was just about to get in the field. And she goes, no, wait a minute. She goes, you can't go in that field today. Based on our field health imagery, again, the simplest tool in FieldView, right? As long as you have a boundary, you get these satellite imagery. She goes, right in the middle, there's leaves that hadn't fallen out or not dry yet. So it's not mature in the middle. We can't go yet. Let's give it another 2 or 3 days till that actually matures. We can actually see it in our field health image. He's like, well, no, I've checked the field. He goes, it looks dry. He goes, I'm going out there and I'm going to combine. She goes, well, let's go take a look. And sure enough, they took the 4-wheeler right to the middle of that field, and she was 100% right. Again, the simplest little tools in FieldView can make a huge difference. Like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll let it dry for a couple more days. The weather forecast is great, so let's just keep that quality of our product up, but by not getting some of those wet beans in there. Again, simple little procedures.
And that's fantastic, and that is something that, working with the data that comes out of the machine and knowledge of the weather, like, you got to balance. Farming is all a balance, and it seems like this is just one more way to ensure you get the right balance.
100%, exactly right.
Right. Check. All right. Any final words that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah. Again, I think farming is a team sport. I truly believe that. You can't do everything by yourself. And this is why I think FieldView is a great fit for a lot of farmers, a lot of producers in Canada. It's about the shareability. So yes, this is your data. You can do what you want with your data. But if you're able to share that with your machine operators, your landowners, your agronomists, and whoever, I think this will really open up the discussions, open up the relevant information for your farms. And we've seen this time and time again over these COVID times where you can't really physically interact with people. This type of tool has just shined and outperformed others, saying that we can really communicate our information, our ideas, and really help you as a team by using this communication. So I think it's something you want to try. Talk to your local representatives who sell FieldView. Just go to the FieldView website. You can check for our dealers and give it a shot. It's very inexpensive. In fact, it's a free trial to get started. Give it a shot, see what you think, and let us know. I'd appreciate your feedback.
Excellent. Thank you again, Daniel. This was great. If anyone has any further questions, either about the presentation or about Climate FieldView in general, please reach out to Daniel at daniel.deMoissac@climate.com for inquiries for Eastern Canada, and to Chapin Bell at chapin.bell@bear.com for inquiries for Western Canada. Thank you for tuning in to today's webinar, and don't forget to visit topcropmanager.com/webinars to view all of our previously recorded webinars. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.